The previous shipwreck accident left the Brown family stranded in Ketchikan. Bear could no longer roam freely. Every day, he could only sleep on the narrow streets. Noah slept under the table, so no one would step on him. Matt also found his own cramped space, but the city's noise and claustrophobic environment made life unbearable for the family. During the day, they would go out to find odd jobs and manual labor to earn money. Mother Ami handled the finances. Every cent they earned went into the family's shared savings jar. After months of work, they finally had enough capital to leave the city. Meanwhile, Bill and Bam strolled on the dock, looking for a boat that could fit all 9 of them. After a quick survey, they found the boats here were either too small or too expensive for them. When they asked the old man in red as a last resort, the clever old man countered, "Why not buy 2 small boats instead? I have 2 very cost-effective ones. One has a slightly leaky engine, but it's cheap. If we make a deal, I'll throw in a small boat for free. You get cheap boats, and I won't get scolded by my wife for not selling them." Bill looked at the dilapidated boats with exposed wiring and couldn't help but wryly smile. It was late summer, and if they couldn't reach their destination soon to build a house, they'd have to wait another year in the city. But the savings jar's balance limited their dreams. To return to the forest, he agreed to the old man's deal. When the good news reached home, Noah and Matt immediately started packing. They were in a junkyard, scouring for anything useful. Here, a pile of items could be bought for just a few coins. For Noah, this was like heaven. He was a self-taught handyman, and this radio proved his repair skills. This was the new home Bill chose for the Brown family. Currently, it was only accessible by water. This 170-acre land remained untouched by human development, with clear streams and towering trees. For the Bill family, it was like a dream, but it had one obvious drawback. The area had a dense population of brown bears. Additionally, they had to sail over 500 kilometers to reach it. The next day, Bill took the children to the dock to deal with the 2 boats. Having learned from the previous shipwreck, they carefully inspected every part of the boats before setting sail. Bam checked the Osprey. Everything was fine, but the other boat was in worse shape. The old man in red had warned Bill before the deal. The Beacon is practically a giveaway. It has a leaky engine, but the reality is even worse than described. Bill looked aggrieved and said, "I was told the boat had some issues, but I didn't expect so many." Fortunately, after months of odd jobs, all the brothers had picked up some basic repair skills. After some tinkering, the little boat's engine finally started. Next came appointing the captain for the second boat. Though the brothers openly competed in front of their father, Bill still chose the second son, Bam, as he was the most serious and responsible among them. With everything ready, a new day arrived. It was the day they left Ketchikan. Everyone happily started packing, except for wife Ami, who was in pain from a toothache that morning. Bill took her to the doctor, who recommended hospitalization for a tooth extraction. But to avoid delaying the family's journey into the mountains, Ami insisted on just getting some anti-inflammatory medicine. The real reason? They couldn't afford it. A tooth extraction would mean selling the newly bought boat. After making the decision, they split into 2 groups and set off. With a farewell, the family began their long journey home. The family's luck was truly terrible. First, they went bankrupt, buying a big ship that ran aground. Now, after saving money for half a year, they bought 2 boats to head to their new home. But shortly after setting sail, the boats started smoking. The family quickly put on life jackets and boarded the small boat, preparing to abandon ship. When the smoke cleared, Bill checked the unlucky vessel. One of its motors was dead, and worse, the bottom was leaking. Faced with this pile of troubles, Bill thought of 1,000 ways to kill the old man in red in just 1 minute. Finally, he made a decisive decision to quickly head to the nearby fishing village of Meyershuk. Meyershuk, a tiny fishing village with only 21 people, was their only hope. But Bam opposed this decision, arguing they should fix the engine on the spot and continue. He also protested his father meddling with his boat, but Bill glared. He wouldn't let his son challenge his authority. Immediately, he ordered both boats to dock, then started the remaining motor, heading toward the village. With only 1 motor, Bill's boat moved painfully slow, and the leaking hull kept sinking. Fortunately, the village wasn't too far, and they made it ashore by nightfall. Despite the day's misfortunes, as long as everyone was alive, Bill would laugh heartily, knowing complaints were useless. Only spreading optimism could keep them going. Under Bill's command, the family unloaded camping essentials. Their next task was to set up camp, eat, and sleep soundly, forgetting everything, ensuring everyone woke up refreshed the next morning. The next day, Bill didn't waste time on the hopeless little boat. Instead, he tried calling his old friend Carl on the radio. After hours, he finally got through and secured Carl's help. They would take Carl's Laura from Meyershuk to the wild island of Kijagov. As the sun set, Bill found a beach to camp. As usual, the small boat would ferry the family and supplies ashore. While everyone checked their guns for brown bears, Bam realized his gun was missing. Still upset from Bill's earlier scolding, he blamed his brothers for moving it. But no one was easygoing, and soon a big argument erupted. The next morning, before departure, Bill pulled Bam aside for a talk. With a few words, he eased Bam's anger, then shared his views on leadership and team unity. In minutes, Bam was convinced, muttering, "I learned something." All was well. They sailed through calm seas and thick fog, navigating both safely. When the boats pushed through the fog, their new home was in sight. Bill and Ami pulled out their pre-designed cabin plans for detailed adjustments. Hours later, the family finally reached their new land. When Bill declared, "This whole beach is ours," the family gasped in amazement. They boarded the small boat for landing. A historic moment, their piece of paradise. When the Bill family first stepped onto their new island, the boys' excitement was obvious. But now, they had only 5 daylight hours to find shelter. Sticking close to avoid bear attacks, Bear climbed a tree and found a perfect spot. A small clearing in the jungle, flat, with dense canopy for shelter, and a view of the nearby beach. Bill slapped his thigh. "This is it." Like a commander, he issued orders. Bear, the most energetic and adaptable, would find water. Matt, the most experienced, would guard with Bear. Others cleared the area, preparing to pitch tents and light a fire. Bear never let his father down. With Matt, they soon heard the sound of running water in the jungle. Matt proved his sharpness. He let Bear take a sip first. After confirming the water was clean, he slowly walked over. But Bear noticed another unsettling sign: a fresh bear print. This area had the densest population of brown bears, and was notorious in Alaska. So he didn't hesitate for a second, and immediately went back to report to his father. Upon hearing the news, Bill organized a team to patrol the area, while Bear stayed behind to protect the others. As thunder rumbled, a light rain began to fall. To quickly assess the surroundings, the family lined up and moved forward in search. When a bear appeared in front of Gabe, he tensed up. Though bears have keen senses of smell and hearing, their eyesight is poor. From a distance, as long as you stay still, they won't notice you. Uncertain of the bear's intentions, Gabe prepared for the worst. Soon, the bear wandered away from Gabe's sight. He hurried back to report to his father. When another bear appeared, the group of 4 gestured and communicated, but only from a distance. Bill stopped Gabe from firing, not wanting to disturb everyone. If they could coexist peacefully, that would be best. But if these bears threatened their family's safety, it would be a different story. After returning, since the bears posed no real threat, the family's top priority was still setting up camp. Drawing from past experience, they were better prepared this time. They set up a steel-framed tent, about 6x6 meters, large enough to fit all 9 of them. Once the tent was up, Bear started a fire. But Bill noticed a new problem, a phenomenon called widowmaker. Usually, a large branch of a tree dies, rots, and can fall with just a gust of wind, crushing anyone underneath. If not dealt with, they wouldn't be able to rest easy. So Bill decided to cut down the dead tree. Bear naturally took on the task of climbing the tree to tie the ropes. Since he was too close to the tent, they had to ensure the tree wouldn't fall toward the tent, or bounce upward at the end. After telling his sons not to pull too hard on the rope, he began sawing through the tree. The fallen tree was put to good use. Besides being firewood, Bill cut it into sections for stools, and split logs in half for tables. Next, they built a temporary kitchen with planks. After 2 days at sea and half a day's work, the whole family was exhausted. They collapsed in the tent to sleep, only to be woken by an uninvited guest outside. Still unwilling to kill the bear, Bill inspected the situation and left Bam and Matt on guard, while the others rested. Tomorrow, there would be more work to do. In the forest, 8-year-old Bear was doing his daily morning exercises. Since arriving in the woods with his family, breathing the free air, his whole body felt refreshed. When he finished his workout and returned home, the others were just waking up. Bam and Gabe scrubbed themselves from head to toe by the stream. Later, Gabe shaved with his little sister's help and tied his hair into a braid. After exercising, Bear used a stainless steel pot lid to slick back his golden hair. Once their personal time was over, Bill, the family's leader, issued a series of instructions. Matt and Gabe were responsible for food, Bear for the fire. To keep him in check, Bill specifically warned, "We don't need a big bonfire. Don't go burning down the forest." Considering it was late autumn, the weather would only get colder. Bill assigned the rest of the family to build a trapper's cabin and set up a toilet for the 3 female members. Everyone immediately got to work. For the trapper's cabin design, Bill handed the task to his youngest son, Noah. For centuries, trapper cabins had served as temporary shelters, typically about 2.5 x 3 meters in size. Noah quickly came up with some unique ideas and explained them confidently to his father. As the brothers began building the cabin, Matt and Gabe took Bill's crab traps and set out in a small boat. They needed to find a suitable spot to place the traps and retrieve them at night. When Matt spotted a specific area in the bay, he stopped the rowing Gabe, tasted the seawater, and immediately declared, "This is the spot." This move left Gabe baffled. He also tasted the water. It was just salty. So why did Matt think there were crabs here? Matt didn't explain further, and hastily threw the trap into the water, letting the rope straighten as it sank, then tossed in the buoy. Unexpectedly, the buoy sank immediately. The brothers stared at the empty water in shock. Clearly, they hadn't measured the bay's depth properly, so the rope was too short. After some mutual blame, they decided not to tell their father, and would check again at dusk when the tide receded. Maybe then they'd see the buoy. When they returned home, they joined the trapper cabin construction. Everyone worked hard, but a small incident made their father scowl again. It turned out the brothers hadn't tied the boat's rope properly, and it drifted away with the waves. Luckily, they noticed in time, and Matt and Bear jumped into the water to rescue it. Though no major harm was done, Bill was clearly unhappy with their carelessness. Just as the trapper cabin took shape, Bill assigned Gabe to dig a toilet on the other side. For the 5 brothers, a toilet wasn't a big deal. They could go anywhere, but it wasn't as convenient for the girls. An outdoor toilet would give the female members some privacy. With Bill's help, Gabe quickly set up a makeshift toilet, though the shape of the throne was questionable, and the surface wasn't very smooth. Ami took a look and was speechless. On one hand, it wasn't the most comfortable to sit on. On the other, the father and son had put in real effort, carving it into a decent shape. At Bill's insistence, they had Bear test it on it. Surprisingly, it felt pretty comfortable. As time passed, the trapper cabin was only missing a roof, but Gabe's clumsiness broke the chainsaw, slowing down the lumbering process. Bear took the opportunity to collect some moss, which he and the girls used, to seal the gaps in the toilet walls, keeping the cold wind out. When the toilet was finally complete, it actually looked quite decent, with a curtain and even a large window for ventilation and light. Gabe hurried over for a test run. He was very satisfied with not having to go into the woods to relieve himself. But next, the family would face another major change. With today's progress going so well, Bill announced quitting time. Matt and Gabe took advantage of the light before it got completely dark and hurried to retrieve the crab traps they had placed in the morning. If they could add fresh crabs to dinner, it would be perfect. Meanwhile, Bill and Ami were preparing dinner, waiting for the 2 brothers to return with the crabs, hoping for a delicious meal. But as time passed, more than an hour went by, and the brothers still hadn't returned. Normally, it should only take 30 minutes, which made the family worry. Finally, Bill and Bear took flashlights and went to the beach to look for them, but there was no sign of humans. Now Bill was certain they were in danger. Tragedy seemed to be striking the Brown family again. In panic, the Browns asked the filming crew to call the authorities for help. When the rescue team arrived, the two beloved sons had been missing for 3 hours. After searching the sea for over an hour, the rescuers and the filming crew finally spotted 2 people floating on the water nearly 2 kilometers from the shore. After the rescuers left, Bill, Bear, and the 2 unlucky boys stood on the beach for a long time, scolding them harshly. Back at the campsite, the 2 young men ate dinner alone, and the crabs they had been longing for never made it to the table. Tears were visible on Gabe's face. The heartfelt words from their father must have deeply moved them. As a new day began, this sleepless night would eventually be forgotten. Everyone acted as if nothing had happened. Bill fixed the chainsaw that had been broken before, and the whole family put their effort into building the hunting shed. This time, they weren't just making a small cabin. To enjoy a comfortable shower in the summer, they also built a shower room. Noah designed a shower system, using all the small parts he had collected from the junkyard. He used a blue plastic jug as a water tank, connected it to some PVC pipes and a faucet, then heated a nail and poked holes in the PVC to create a spray. At the same time, Noah took the opportunity to move the extra wood to his workspace and built a small bed. After covering the hunting shed's roof with waterproof fabric and moss, the family's construction work was essentially complete. The remaining finishing touches, such as filling gaps with moss and trimming uneven parts, could be done within 2 days. 2 days later, Bill and his wife inspected the entire project. They now had a complete hunting cabin, an outdoor toilet with a non-flushing toilet, and a shower room. After Bear filled the shower with water, Ami turned on the faucet. 6 thin streams of water flowed from the PVC pipes. The flow was small and weak, but for them, it was already quite luxurious. It was October in Alaska, and for the Brown family of 9, housing was no longer a concern. They had a large camping tent, where Bill, his wife, and their 2 daughters stayed, while the 5 sons lived in the hunting cabin. Now, they needed to focus on food. After all, no matter how good the living conditions were, they couldn't solve the hunger problem. Bill and Gabe decided to catch some crabs. When in desperate need, crabs were the easiest and safest food to obtain. But when they arrived at the shore to retrieve the traps, they found a pile of black bear droppings. From the appearance, the bear's digestion hadn't been great recently. Worse, it had destroyed the crab traps. They grumbled, carrying the broken traps to Noah, hoping to fix them as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the eldest son, Matt, had a new plan. He decided to move out of the hunting cabin. While clearing a large tree, he had discovered an ideal root cabin. This was his chance for a private space. All he needed to do was hollow out the interior and add some simple rain protection. On the other hand, with the family's food supply running low, Ami took her 2 daughters out to look for berries. But when they arrived, they found the area had already been visited by competitors. Bear droppings were everywhere, and most of the berries on the trees had been picked by the bears, as they were one of their favorite foods. They could only gather the leftovers, which were barely enough for a dessert, not even a full meal for the 3rd son. Speaking of the 3rd son, he was currently undergoing a major assignment from Bill. As his fair skin was covered in black mud, he was becoming more and more like a wild man. 5 minutes earlier, he had received an order from his father. With the family on the brink of starvation, Bear was to scout for reindeer. The Brown family's predicament was evident in Matt's behavior. He had been enthusiastically building his private space, which, though small, was well equipped with a smoke outlet and a glass bottle refracting natural light for illumination. But one night, things took a turn for the worse. Matt had started cooking in his little space, collecting all the grasshoppers he had encountered while digging, removing their insides, and frying them in oil. Not only did they become crispy and delicious, but they were also 10 times richer in protein than beef. Realizing the food shortage, Bear wasted no time and smoothly took on the role of a scout. After smearing his upper body, face, and hair with mud, he began wandering through the jungle. Admittedly, despite his mischievous nature, Bear was quite capable. He soon found traces of deer herds on the leaves. He had planned to continue forward and report back to his father after finding the reindeer, but then he spotted another carnivore. Though they were both bears, he knew he couldn't take on this real bear. Without hesitation, he turned and ran back to the camp. When Bill heard about the black bear near the camp, he took the matter seriously and gathered everyone to discuss how to deal with it. But just as everyone was making threats, the two girls were nowhere to be seen. No one knew where they had gone. Bill was panicking inside and quickly urged everyone to grab their guns and search. If the girls were hurt by that bear, he would blame himself for life. Just as everyone scattered in a hurry, searching everywhere, the two sisters returned, carrying large bags and small packages. The old man quickly turned around and called the other scattered brothers to return. This back and forth directly sent Bill and his wife's blood pressure soaring. Elder sister Snowbird seemed fine, but the most beloved little Mary had been scolded by her favorite father for no reason, so her mood was understandably sour. After that, the old man led the group to follow Bear, to where they had encountered the black bear. The black bear was already gone, but their real purpose was to search for deer. This time, they were very lucky. In less than 20 minutes of walking through the jungle, Gabe spotted several deer near the jungle. According to the Bill family's rules, during group hunting, the one who spots the prey first has the right to shoot. But clearly, Gabe lacked confidence in his shooting skills. The target was already within range, yet he kept hesitating and moving forward, unable to pull the trigger. The old man was so anxious he almost had a heart attack. As expected, the result was just a loud noise like a firecracker. In such dire need of food, this useless fellow had let both deer escape. Bill was furious, pounding his chest, but there was nothing he could do. After returning empty-handed, Gabe realized he had shamed himself and actively went to practice shooting with his sister Snowbird. Among all the children, Snowbird's marksmanship was the best. After a bit of practice, the old man gave Snowbird a mission. He hoped his daughter could help the family by hunting down a deer to ease their urgent need. He also decided to let Gabe accompany her. Though this guy was useless, he was still some backup. If they managed to kill a deer, it would make up for their earlier failure. It must be said, though it was a small matter, the old man's intentions were thoughtful. This time, they followed Bear's scouting direction and continued their search. Soon, after nearly half a day of trekking, they were rewarded. Gabe spotted several deer in the jungle again. Due to Gabe's earlier mistake, it was Snowbird's turn to shoot. As the gunshot rang out, no one knew the result. With the trees blocking the view and the deer moving, Snowbird wasn't even sure if she had hit the target. The two hurried into the jungle to search. When hunting, it often happened that the prey wasn't killed instantly, but died after walking a short distance. Clearly, today was one of those cases. Seeing the deer lying on the ground, the siblings felt happier than if it were New Year's. By now, Gabe had moved past his earlier failure. The two siblings set to work gutting the deer, packing what they could use, and discarding the rest to lighten the load. They had to work quickly, because black bears were highly sensitive to the smell of blood. Soon, Gabe finished processing the 100-pound deer. This was the method their father had taught them, turning the prey into a backpack-like bundle and carrying it on their backs, which was very efficient and prevented it from falling off. After trekking 3 kilometers home, when the family saw the large chunk of meat on Gabe's back, their joy was almost indescribable. After all, they had all suffered from hunger. They didn't hold back their praise. For Snowbird and Gabe, Ami even came over, with seasonings and a pot. Everyone eagerly grabbed the still half-cooked venison and took a bite. The explosion of protein and fat in their mouths was simply authentic.